Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today we're embarking on a really interesting deep dive. We're looking at C2 English mastery, specifically advanced vocabulary for exam preparation. We're talking about words that will not only sharpen your communication, but, truly distinguish you as a highly proficient English speaker.
That's spot on, yeah. At the C2 level, the expectation shifts significantly. It really does. It isn't merely about, let's say, being understood. It's about demonstrating a near-native command. Moving beyond everyday expressions to embrace words that convey subtle shades of meaning, emotion, and remarkable accuracy. It's a real leap from simply getting by to articulating complex ideas with a remarkable precision and, frankly, profound impact.
Absolutely. And whether you're aiming for those top-tier scores in demanding exams, maybe like the Cambridge C2 proficiency, or you simply aspire to communicate with a greater influence in your professional life, maybe your personal life too, a strong grasp of this high-level vocabulary is absolutely central. This isn't just about memorizing definitions, is it? It's about wielding a genuinely powerful tool for sounding more articulate, more persuasive, and I think more professional confident in both your writing and your speaking.
Yes, definitely. It allows you to express your precise intent, leaving very little room for misinterpretation.
Right. And
the beauty of the language we'll explore today is how it's drawn from the very places you'd encounter such sophisticated expressions. Things like deep academic discussions, nuanced debates, incisive editorials, and of course, compelling literature.
Yeah, the kind of places where language really matters.
Exactly. These are environments where the slightest shift in meaning, maybe conveyed by just a single word, can alter the entire impact of a statement. So we're here to distill those essential insights for you, showing how these words are not abstract concepts, but truly practical instruments for, elevated communication.
Okay, brilliant. Let's begin then. Let's explore words that empower you to voice disapproval or criticism with extraordinary specificity, going far beyond just saying, I don't like it. This section is really about selecting the fitting word to articulate the precise nature of your objection, whether it's maybe a personal jab or a more formal denouncement.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how these words grant you the power to express varying intensities and forms of criticism. It's quite nuanced. We're talking about everything from sharp individual remarks to profound institutional condemnation.
Right.
Understanding these distinctions isn't just about sounding more knowledgeable. It really helps you navigate complex social and professional landscapes. It allows you to choose your words to match the gravity and context of a given situation. It is, in essence, exercising masterful linguistic control.
Okay, so let's start with the first one, caustic. Now, you mentioned personal jabs. Is this where caustic fits in?
Very much so. It isn't just about being sarcastic, though it often involves sarcasm. Caustic describes something said in a scathing and bitter way. It's really designed to wound or diminish.
Okay, so it has intent behind it.
Definitely. Think of the example. Her caustic remarks about his performance hurt his feelings deeply. It's more than just a negative comment. It carries an intentional bitterness, almost like acid, meant to sting.
Ouch. Yeah, you can almost feel that word.
You can. You often encounter this kind of language in highly polarized debates, maybe online arguments, where the objective isn't understanding, but rather intellectual demolition, perhaps.
Right. It reveals more about the speaker's bitterness, maybe, than it offers any constructive feedback.
Precisely. It's destructive, not constructive.
Okay. So, while caustic might be that personal biting comment, what about disapproval that carries significant official weight? You mentioned institutional condemnation.
Yes, that brings us neatly to censure. This is far from a casual disagreement. To censure means to express severe, formal disapproval, typically from an authoritative body.
Okay, so like a committee or an organization?
Exactly. Consider. The committee voted to censure the politician for his inappropriate behavior. Unlike a boss simply, let's say, reprimanding an employee, censure typically implies a public official condemnation. Often formally recorded, it carries substantial reputational consequences.
Got it. So it's serious and public. You wouldn't censure your friend for, being late for coffee.
No, probably not. But a professional board might very well censure a doctor for a grave instance of malpractice. It's a calculated institutional response to a breach of conduct, signifying a serious loss of confidence.
That distinction between personal and official formal disapproval is really clear there. Now, what about chastise? How does that fit in? Is it similar to censure?
It has overlap, but it's usually more direct and often involves a power dynamic, like a parent or teacher. Chastise means to rebuke or reprimand severely.
Ah, okay. So like the example, the teacher chastised the student for cheating on the examination.
Exactly. The focus here is on the act of severe correction, often from a position of authority. The intent is usually to correct behavior, to teach a lesson, perhaps more directly than a formal censure might.
Right, so censure is more about formal disapproval, maybe public record, while chastise is more about direct, severe reprimand, often to correct someone.
You got it. Censure is often institutional. Chastise can be more personal or hierarchical, but still severe.
Okay, that makes sense. Then we have condone. This feels quite different again.
It is quite different. Condone means to accept and allow behavior that is considered morally wrong or offensive. It's more passive.
Passive acceptance.
Okay,
like the example. The school does not condone bullying in any form whatsoever.
precisely. This word dives deep into moral responsibility, or maybe the lack thereof. It's about a passive acceptance of something negative. It implies a failure to prevent it or speak out against it, even if you don't actively approve of it.
That's a crucial distinction. It's not outright approval, but it's turning a blind eye, essentially.
Yes, and both can lead to significant damaging consequences. So if a company condones unsafe practices, they're not actively promoting them, maybe, but they're certainly allowing them to continue by not stopping them.
Which implies a level of responsibility anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Complicity through inaction, you could say.
Right. And then there's denounce. This sounds stronger, more active than condone.
Much more active, yes. To denounce is to publicly declare something to be wrong or evil. It's a strong public condemnation.
Public being the key word again.
Often, yes. Think. The activists denounce the government's environmental policies. It's about calling out perceived wrongdoing for all to hear. It often carries a moral or ethical fervor. You're not just disagreeing, you're stating publicly that this is fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so denounce is a very public, strong moral stand against something. How does that differ from, say, deplore?
Good question. Deplore also involves strong disapproval, but it often carries a deeper sense of regret or sadness about the situation. It means to feel or express strong disapproval of something, often something you lament.
Ah, so there's an emotional element of regret.
Often, yes. Consider, she deplored the violence shown in modern television programs. It conveys a deep, perhaps emotional sense of disapproval and regret. It's about lamenting something you find deeply troubling or unfortunate. Denounce is more about public condemnation. Deplore can be more about expressing deep personal sorrow or disappointment about something wrong.
I see. Deplore feels a bit more mournful, perhaps.
That's a good way to put it. A sense of lamentation often accompanies it.
And finally, in this criticism section, deride. This sounds negative too.
Oh, definitely negative. To deride someone or something is to express contempt for them, to ridicule.
Ridicule. Okay, so mockery.
Exactly. Mockery is central. The critics derided his latest novel as pretentious and boring. This is about making someone or something seem worthless or absurd. It's often dismissive, aimed at belittling or scornfully laughing at the target. It lacks the formal weight of censure or the moral outcry of denounce. It's more about contemptuous laughter.
Got it. So quite a range there, from the stinging caustic remark to the formal censure, the passive condone, the public denounce, the regretful deplore, and the mocking deride.
Wow. It really gives you precision, doesn't it? Choosing the right word there completely changes the tone and implication.
It really does. Okay, let's move on. This next area feels incredibly relevant today. Navigating information, belief, and truth. How these C2 words help us understand, analyze, and even, question information in what we're told.
Yes, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, these words are absolutely crucial for critical thinking in our information-rich, sometimes overwhelming world. They help you distinguish between, say, well-supported arguments and mere speculation or even deliberate misinformation. They are your intellectual tools for discernment.
For me, this next section is where the power of C2 vocabulary truly comes alive. It's not just about sounding intelligent. It's about giving you the intellectual toolkit to dissect arguments, to challenge what you hear, and ultimately to become a sharper, more discerning thinker. It feels almost like gaining a superpower in an age of constant information flow.
That's a fantastic way to put it. A superpower, I like that. And the first word that comes to mind in this realm is cogent. This describes an argument that is clear, logical, and thoroughly convincing.
Cogent. Oh,
Take
yeah.
the example. She presented a cogent argument for increasing the education budget. The strength of a cogent argument lies in its internal logic and clarity. It's not merely about emotional appeal or how loudly it's presented. It's an argument that genuinely persuades, because it makes perfect sense, it holds together intellectually, with each point building logically upon the last.
Right, so you walk away thinking, yes, that makes sense, that sounds.
Exactly. It appeals to reason.
Okay, so cogent is about a strong, logical argument. What about verifying information?
That leads us to corroborate. This means to confirm or give support to a statement, theory, or finding.
Corroborate, like providing backup evidence.
Precisely. The witness testimony corroborated the defendant's alibi perfectly. This word is essential in legal settings, scientific research, journalism, anywhere where credibility needs reinforcing through additional evidence. One piece of evidence might suggest something. Corroborating evidence makes it much stronger.
Got it. So multiple sources pointing the same way. Very important.
Extremely. But on the flip side of carefully evaluating evidence, we have credulous.
Ah, yes, you mentioned this earlier in passing. Someone who has too great a readiness to believe things.
That's the one. The credulous investor fell for the elaborate financial scam.
What this word really highlights isn't just being naive, is it? It's more a fundamental vulnerability.
I think so, yes. A vulnerability stemming from a lack of critical thinking or perhaps excessive trust. A credulous person isn't necessarily unintelligent, but they might suspend their skepticism too easily.
Making them susceptible to manipulation or misinformation.
Exactly. It's that state of uncritical acceptance that, as we see with scams, can have very real-world consequences. It makes me think about how easily we can fall prey to dubious information online if we're not careful.
Definitely. Which brings up the idea of skepticism. Is there a word for that healthy distrust?
Well, cynical is related, but it's perhaps gone a step further. Cynical means believing that people are motivated purely by self-interest, being distrustful of human sincerity or integrity.
Okay, so not just skeptical, but assuming the worst motives.
Often, yes. His cynical attitude made it difficult for him to trust anyone. A cynical perspective can sometimes be a defense mechanism, a way to avoid being disappointed or cheated, but it can also become a barrier to genuine connection, to trusting others or believing in good intentions. It paints a rather bleak view of humanity.
Yeah, a cynical person might miss out on genuine positivity because they're always expecting the hidden angle.
That's a great way to phrase it. It can be quite limiting.
Okay. What about when facts just don't line up, when things don't match?
That's a discrepancy, a lack of compatibility or similarity between two or more facts.
Discrepancy? Simple enough.
Simple concept, but spotting them is key. There was a discrepancy between his story and the evidence. The importance of spotting these inconsistencies is huge for any kind of investigation, problem solving, even just understanding a situation accurately. If the numbers don't add up, there's a discrepancy you need to investigate.
Right, and if you spot a discrepancy, you might become dubious.
Exactly. Dubious means hesitating or doubting, not to be relied upon. Suspect.
Okay.
She was dubious about the accuracy of his claims. It signifies a healthy skepticism, perhaps prompted by a discrepancy or just a gut feeling. It's an unwillingness to accept something at face value due to doubts about its reliability or truthfulness.
So dubious is that feeling of doubt about something's trustworthiness.
Yes, it's a questioning state. Now, sometimes that doubt is very well founded, especially if you encounter duplicity.
Duplicity. This sounds more serious than just being dubious.
Oh, it is. Duplicity speaks to active deceitfulness, double dealing. His duplicity was revealed when his lies were exposed. This describes a deliberate act of deception, often involving a two-faced nature or hidden intentions. It implies calculated, dishonest behavior.
So someone is presenting one face while secretly acting in another way.
That's the core of it. It's not just a single lie. Often it's a pattern of disingenuous behavior designed specifically to mislead or betray trust.
That makes duplicity feel much more sinister than just being dishonest. And building on that idea of untruthfulness, what about arguments built on lies?
That brings us to fallacious. An argument is fallacious if it's based on a false belief or unsound reasoning.
Fallacious. Okay, like a flaw in the logic.
Precisely. His argument was fallacious and based on incorrect assumptions. This is absolutely crucial for evaluating arguments. It signals a fundamental flaw in the logic or the foundation, rendering the argument invalid or unsound, even if the conclusion happens to be true by chance.
Recognizing a fallacious argument is key to intellectual honesty, isn't it? And making sound decisions.
Absolutely. For instance, arguing that something is true just because many people believe it, the appeal to popularity, is a common type of fallacious reasoning.
Right, the logic doesn't hold up. Now, what if someone isn't just using faulty logic, but actively inventing falsehoods?
Then they fabricate. To fabricate is to invent something falsely, typically with the intent to deceive.
Fabricate, like making things up.
Exactly. The witness fabricated his testimony to protect his friend. This is about the direct creation of falsehoods. It's different from being nearly mistaken or even credulous, believing something untrue. Fabrication is deliberate invention.
Okay, deliberate invention of lies. And if that fabrication is part of, say, a crime or illegal activity?
Then we might call it fraudulent. This means dishonest or fake, often in a legal or official context, involving intentional deception for personal gain or to damage another individual or entity.
Fraudulent. So linked to fraud.
Yes. The investigation revealed fraudulent activities in the company's accounting. This focuses on the illegality and the intent to defraud. It fundamentally undermines trust in systems, like financial markets or legal processes.
Wow, okay, so from cogent arguments to fraudulent schemes, that's a really powerful set of words for navigating the complex world of information and truth.
It truly is, and understanding these distinctions equips you to be a much more critical consumer and producer of information.
Definitely. Now let's shift gears slightly. Moving beyond just facts and arguments, these C2 words also give us a much richer palette, don't they, to describe emotions, attitudes, and fundamental states of being.
They really do. They help us pinpoint the precise feeling or condition, allowing for deeper, more empathetic, and accurate communication about the human experience.
This raises an interesting question, I think. How do these terms help us understand not just what happens, but also the underlying feelings and conditions that shape human experience in complex situations?
That's a great point. They provide the vocabulary to truly articulate the nuances of the human psyche in intricate scenarios, moving beyond just broad strokes like happy or sad.
So, where should we start with these states of being?
A good starting point, perhaps a cautionary one, is complacent. This describes showing smug or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements.
Complacent, right? Like resting on your laurels.
Exactly. The team became complacent after their early success in the season. This illustrates the real danger of overconfidence and a resulting lack of vigilance. It implies a lack of motivation to improve because one is too satisfied, often leading to stagnation, missed opportunities, or vulnerability to challenges they didn't see coming. It's a kind of self-satisfied blindness.
I've definitely seen that happen, where success breeds a lack of urgency or awareness. Okay, what about trying to smooth things over when there's conflict?
Then you might adopt a conciliatory tone or approach. Conciliatory means intended or likely to placate or pacify.
Conciliatory, to calm things down.
Yes. He adopted a conciliatory tone to resolve the heated dispute. It highlights the strategic use of language or gestures designed to calm tensions, foster goodwill, or achieve reconciliation. It's about making peace.
Okay, so a conciliatory move aims to reduce hostility. What about feeling genuinely sorry after doing something wrong?
That state is contrition. Contrition is the state of feeling remorseful and penitent.
Contrition. Deeper than just saying sorry.
Much deeper. He showed genuine contrition for his mistakes and apologized sincerely. It emphasizes genuine regret and a desire to make amends. It's a profound sense of remorse, not just a superficial apology. You feel the weight of your actions.
That's a powerful word for deep regret. What about the opposite end of the emotional spectrum, feeling really down?
If someone is deeply down, perhaps having lost hope, they might be described as despondent. This means being in low spirits from loss of hope or courage.
Despondent, so more than just sad.
Yes, it's a stronger sense of hopelessness and discouragement. He became despondent after failing the important examination. It suggests a deeper state than mere sadness, often linked to a specific setback or loss that drains one's spirit.
Okay, and what about someone who's maybe quiet or shy, not because they're sad, but because they lack confidence?
That person might be diffident.
Yeah.
Diffident means modest or shy because of a lack of self-confidence.
Diffident, I like that word.
It's a good one. Despite her talent, she remained diffident about her artistic abilities. It points to a quietness or hesitation that stems from self-doubt, often masking true ability or potential. It's not arrogance, but the opposite, an uncertainty about one's own worth.
Right. And then completely the opposite of diffident or despondent, pure energy and cheerfulness.
You're thinking of ebullient. Ebullient means cheerful and full of energy, exuberant.
Ebullient. It sounds energetic just saying it.
It does, doesn't it? She was ebullient about her acceptance to the prestigious university. It describes a vibrant, overflowing joy and enthusiasm, often highly infectious. Think bubbling, sparkling energy.
Love that description. Okay, shifting again. What about something or someone hard to figure out? Mysterious.
That would be enigmatic. Enigmatic means difficult to interpret or understand. Mysterious.
Like the example you often hear. The Mona Lisa's enigmatic smile has puzzled viewers for centuries.
Exactly. That quality of being mysterious or puzzling invites intense curiosity, but actively defies easy explanation. It suggests an elusive quality that fascinates, but remains just out of reach of full comprehension.
Yeah.
An enigmatic person might be compelling precisely because you can't quite pin them down.
Intriguing. Now, what about strong negative feelings between people, like long-standing hatred?
That deep-seated hostility is called enmity. Enmity refers to active hostility or opposition, often mutual.
Enmity. So more than just dislike.
Much more. The enmity between the two families lasted for generations. It describes a deep-seated, active animosity far beyond a simple disagreement or dislike. It implies a state of being enemies.
Wow, that's intense. Okay, let's go for something lighter now. Something beautiful but brief.
You're describing something evanescent. It means fleeting, lasting for a very short time.
Evanescent. It sounds delicate.
It often describes delicate things. The evanescent beauty of the sunset left a lasting impression. This word captures the beauty or profound impact of something transient. It reminds us to appreciate moments precisely because they are impermanent. It's used for things that appear for only a brief moment before fading away like a bubble, a mist, or a fleeting feeling.
It really does have a delicate, transient quality to it. Beautiful word. How about strong positive feelings, like passion for a cause?
That would be fervent. Fervent means having or displaying a passionate intensity.
Fervent supporter, maybe.
Exactly. She was a fervent supporter of environmental conservation efforts. It signifies deep, heartfelt intensity of emotion or belief. It's not lukewarm, it's burning with passion.
Okay, and what about things that change all the time, unpredictably?
That sounds like fickle. Fickle means changing frequently, especially as regards one's loyalties, interests, or affection, likely to change unexpectedly.
Fickle, like the weather.
Perfect example. The fickle weather made it difficult to plan outdoor activities. It highlights unpredictability and unreliability. It's often used for things like the weather or fortune or even people that change their mood, allegiance, or opinion without warning.
Right, you can't rely on something fickle. Now, what about being unemotional, objective?
That quality is being dispassionate. It means not influenced by strong emotion and so able to be rational and impartial.
Dispassionate, like a judge needs to be.
Ideally, yes. The judge remained dispassionate throughout the emotional trial. It signifies the ideal of objectivity, the ability to separate personal feelings from judgment or analysis. It's crucial in many professional contexts.
Very important quality. And finally, for this section, you mentioned this earlier too, dissonance, a lack of harmony.
Yes, exactly. Dissonance refers to a lack of harmony among musical notes, or more broadly, a disagreement or tension between people or ideas.
So it can be used beyond music.
Definitely. The dissonance in their relationship became increasingly apparent. It describes a jarring lack of agreement or harmony. It signifies a conflict that creates an unpleasant or unsettling feeling, a clashing of elements, sounds, ideas, beliefs, personalities that just don't quite fit together smoothly. Think of cognitive dissonance, that mental discomfort from holding conflicting beliefs.
Right, that clash. Okay, that's a fantastic range of words for describing feelings, states, and attitudes. Really adds depth.
It does. And now let's pivot slightly to how these advanced words help us describe actions themselves. They don't just state what happened. They articulate how it happened or how it was influenced, often revealing the underlying dynamics and implications.
Right. So these terms help us articulate the subtle dynamics of power, persuasion, and resistance in various situations, from maybe individual interactions right up to broader societal shifts.
Precisely. They provide the granularity to explain not just that something occurred, but the mechanisms and intentions behind its occurrence. This is vital for understanding causality and agency.
Okay, so where do we start with these action-oriented words? How about forcing someone to do something?
That would be coerce. To coerce is to persuade an unwilling person to do something by using force or threats.
Coerce? That sounds quite negative.
It generally is. They tried to coerce him into signing the unfavorable contract. The word highlights the ethical implications of compulsion through pressure or threat, rather than genuine consent or agreement. It's about overcoming someone's will unfairly.
Right. And what about stopping someone from doing something, discouraging them?
That's deter. To deter someone is to discourage them from doing something, typically by instilling doubt or fear of the consequences.
Deter, like a deterrent.
Exactly. The security cameras were installed to deter potential thieves. It focuses on the preventative nature of an action aimed at dissuading undesirable behavior. You're trying to stop something before it happens by making the prospect unattractive or risky.
Okay, coerce is forcing action, deter is preventing action. What about causing something to happen, maybe starting something?
That could be engender. This means to cause or give rise to a feeling, situation, or condition.
Engender, we touched on this, right? Causing something.
Yes. The controversial policy engendered heated debate among citizens. It described how something effectively produces or creates something else, often an abstract concept like a feeling, engender hope, a situation, engender conflict, or an outcome. It's a powerful verb of causation.
So one thing brings another into existence. What if you're deliberately trying to stir up trouble?
Then you might be trying to foment something. To foment means to instigate or stir up an undesirable or violent sentiment or course of action.
Foment, like stirring up rebellion.
That's a classic example. The radical leader tried to foment rebellion among the citizens. It implies deliberately instigating or aggravating trouble, disorder, or strong negative feelings. It almost always has a negative connotation, suggesting malicious intent. Okay, fomenting trouble. But what about stirring people into positive action, like a call to arms for a good cause?
That's more like galvanize. To galvanize means to shock or excite someone into taking action.
Galvanize, like that sudden jolt you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The environmental disaster galvanized the community into action. It implies a strong, immediate stimulus, like an electric shock almost, that propels individuals or groups to move with purpose and urgency. It's often used for sudden, decisive responses to events.
Okay, so engender is causing something, foment is stirring up trouble, galvanize is shocking into action. What about just making something easier?
That's facilitate. To facilitate means to make an action or process easy or easier. To assist.
Facilitate, like a facilitator at a meeting. Precisely. They're there to make the discussion easier. The new software will facilitate communication between departments. This word focuses on the helpful role played in making a process smoother, simpler, or more efficient. It's about removing obstacles.
And if you need to make it not just easier, but faster.
Then you expedite. To expedite means to make an action or process happen sooner or be accomplished more quickly.
Expedite delivery, for example.
Perfect. The company expedited the delivery to meet the urgent deadline. It implies a deliberate action taken to accelerate a process, often because of urgency or priority. It's about speeding things up.
Got it. Coerce, deter, engender, foment, galvanize, facilitate, expedite. Lots of ways to influence action there.
Indeed. Now let's shift to vocabulary that helps us describe and define with exceptional clarity. We're talking about words that allow you to paint remarkably clearer pictures, delineate fine details, and disseminate information effectively.
Right. This seems crucial for avoiding misunderstanding. What's compelling here is how these words serve as essential tools for precise communication, isn't it?
Absolutely. They are truly fundamental for conveying information accurately and avoiding ambiguity. In fields like law, science, complex project management, the ability to delineate and elucidate with such precision isn't just an advantage, it's often an absolute necessity.
Okay, so let's start with an act of mercy. How would you describe that?
That would be clemency. Clemency means mercy or lenience, especially shown toward an offender or enemy.
Clemency, often used in legal contexts.
Very often. The governor granted clemency to the prisoner on death row. It typically refers to an act of compassion from someone in authority involving forgiveness or a reduction of punishment. It's a formal granting of mercy.
Okay. What about describing a large amount of something? Not just a lot, but more formally.
You could use copious. Copious means abundant in supply or quantity.
Copious notes, perhaps.
Exactly. The student took copious notes during the important lecture. It emphasizes a large amount or extensive quantity, often suggesting thoroughness or abundance. Copious amounts of food, copious evidence. Got it. Abundant. Now, what about the opposite of thorough? Quick and superficial.
That's cursory. Cursory means hasty, and therefore not thorough or detailed.
Cursory glance.
Yes, that's a common pairing. She gave the document only a cursory glance before signing it. It implies a superficial examination, suggesting a lack of thoroughness, which might lead to overlooking important details. It highlights the potential dangers of haste.
Right. And what about a lack of something, a shortage?
A significant lack or scarcity is a dearth. Dearth means a scarcity or lack of something.
Dearth of qualified candidates.
A very common usage. There was a dearth of qualified candidates for the specialized position. It highlights a significant deficiency or shortage, emphasizing the negative impact of that lack. A dearth of evidence, a dearth of resources.
Okay. Now, you mentioned delineate earlier. Can we look at that again? Describing precisely.
Yes, delineate. It means to describe or portray something precisely, to outline with precision.
Like the architect example. The architect delineated the building plans with meticulous detail. Exactly. It stresses the act of drawing or describing with extreme accuracy and clarity, laying out boundaries or features so distinctly that every part is perfectly defined. You're not just sketching, you're precisely mapping out every single element.
That evokes such a clear image of precision. What about a complete lack of something? Totally empty.
That state is being devoid of something. Devoid means entirely lacking or free from.
Devoid of furniture.
The room's devoid of any furniture or decorations. Yes. It signifies a complete absence, suggesting emptiness or a profound lack. Devoid of emotion, devoid of evidence. It implies totality.
Total absence. Okay.
Huh?
Now, what about things designed to teach? Maybe too obviously.
That's didactic. Didactic describes something intended to teach, particularly having moral instruction as an ulterior motive.
Like a preachy novel.
That's often how it's criticized. The novel was criticized for being too didactic and preachy. It points to literature, art, or even speech that overtly aims to teach a lesson. Sometimes this is fine, but often it's seen negatively if it becomes overly moralistic or sacrifices artistry for the message.
Right. The lesson overshadows the story. And once you have information, perhaps not didactic information, how do you spread it widely?
You disseminate it. To disseminate means to spread something, especially information, widely.
Disseminate information about health risks, for instance.
A perfect example. The organization disseminated information about the health risks. This highlights the crucial process of spreading knowledge or information broadly and effectively, making it accessible to a wide audience. It's about ensuring information reaches those who need it.
Getting the message out. And speaking of messages, how do we describe someone who delivers them beautifully and persuasively?
That person is eloquent. Eloquent means fluent or persuasive in speaking or writing.
Eloquent speaker.
The eloquent speaker moved the audience to tears. Yes. It captures the profound power of language to move, persuade, and express thoughts with grace and extraordinary effectiveness. It's not just what they say, but the impactful way they say it.
That ability to truly connect through words. And what about making something complex clear? Explaining it well.
That's to elucidate. To elucidate means to make something clear, explain.
Elucidate a theory.
Exactly. The professor elucidated the complex theory with simple examples. It's the act of shedding light on complex ideas, making them understandable, often by breaking them down or providing clear illustrations. It's about bringing clarity.
Bringing clarity, love that. And what if you need absolute clarity, no room for doubt, like in a contract?
Then you need things to be explicit. Explicit means stated clearly and in detail, leaving no room for confusion or doubt.
Explicit terms in a contract.
Precisely. The contract contained explicit terms regarding payment and delivery. It emphasizes the importance of directness and leaving no ambiguity, particularly in formal documents or instructions. Everything is spelled out clearly.
Very important. And finally here, what about information that doesn't belong? That's irrelevant.
That information is extraneous. Extraneous means irrelevant or unrelated to the subject being dealt with. Unnecessary.
Extraneous details in an essay.
Yes. The essay contained extraneous information that distracted from the main argument. Identifying what doesn't belong or isn't essential is crucial for concise, focused communication. It's about cutting out the clutter.
Cutting the clutter, great phrase. Okay, that's a brilliant set for achieving clarity. Now let's move to assessing value, impact, and character, words for judging things.
Yes, these words help us evaluate, commend, or even condemn actions and their lasting effects. They allow for nuance, judgment, and appreciation.
Right, helping us assess the worth or harm in situations, moving beyond simple good or bad.
Exactly. Let's start with blame. If someone deserves blame, they are
culpable.
You got it. Culpable means deserving blame, guilty of doing something wrong.
Like in an investigation.
Yes. The investigation found him culpable for the accident that occurred. It's about assigning responsibility and accountability for wrongdoing or negligence.
Okay, culpable means blameworthy. What about something that causes harm, but maybe isn't anyone's direct fault, like a bad habit?
Then it might be detrimental. Detrimental means tending to cause harm.
Smoking is detrimental to health.
The classic example. Smoking is detrimental to your health and overall well-being. It describes the harmful nature of something, indicating clear negative consequences or adverse effects that can lead to deterioration. Lack of sleep, poor diet. These can be detrimental.
Right, causing harm. But on the positive side, if something works really well, achieves its goal.
It's efficacious. Efficacious means successful in producing a desired or intended result. Effective.
An efficacious treatment.
Exactly. The new treatment proved efficacious in curing the disease. It emphasizes the effectiveness of a method or approach in achieving its specific goal. An efficacious strategy isn't just a good idea, it actually works.
Proven effectiveness. Good. Now, what if something makes a bad situation even worse?
That's to exacerbate. To exacerbate means to make a problem, bad situation, or negative feeling worse.
Exacerbate symptoms.
The medication exacerbated his symptoms instead of improving them.
Yes.
It highlights the often unintended consequence of worsening a situation, sometimes even through an attempt to help. Pouring fuel on the fire exacerbates it.
Right. Making things worse. Now, you mentioned exploit earlier with its dual meaning.
Yes, exploit. It can mean to make full use of and derive benefit from a resource, which can be neutral or positive. Or it can mean to use a situation or person in an unfair or selfish way.
Like exploiting resources.
The company exploited the natural resources of the region. This could be negative if done unsustainably or unfairly, but you can also exploit an opportunity, exploit a loophole, or exploit your talents making effective use of them. Context is absolutely key.
That dual nature is really tricky but important. Okay, what about high praise? Really praising something.
That's to extol. To extol means to praise enthusiastically.
Extol the virtues of something.
Yes. The critics extol the virtues of the groundbreaking scientific discovery. It's the act of showering high praise, recognizing excellence and significant achievement with great enthusiasm.
Okay, and what if efforts are completely pointless? Useless.
Then they are futile. Futile means incapable of producing any useful result. Pointless.
Futile attempts.
Their attempts to revive the failing business proved futile.
Exactly. It conveys a sense of hopelessness when efforts yield no positive result, suggesting they were perhaps doomed from the start or simply ineffective against the odds.
A sense of hopelessness. Okay, what about something that inspires respect or even fear because it's so difficult or powerful?
That thing is formidable. Formidable means inspiring fear or respect through being impressively large, powerful, intense, or capable.
A formidable challenge, a formidable opponent.
Perfect examples. The mountain presented a formidable challenge to the experienced climbers. It describes something that is daunting or impressive, often due to its difficulty, size, or power. It commands respect. Right, and the opposite of formidable or important, something trivial.
That would be frivolous. Frivolous means not having any serious purpose or value of a person, carefree and not serious.
Like a frivolous lawsuit.
Exactly. The court dismissed the frivolous lawsuit as a waste of time. It describes something trivial, lacking substance, or not worth serious consideration. Frivolous spending, frivolous complaints.
Lacking seriousness. Okay, 2 more in this assessment section. What about something demanding, requiring great effort or precision?
That's exacting. Exacting means making great demands on one's skill, attention, or other resources, demanding precision.
Exacting standards.
The exacting standards of the competition challenged all participants. Yes. It implies a demand for high standards, meticulousness, and close attention to detail. It often suggests difficulty, but also implies a commitment to quality, an exacting boss, an exacting task.
High demands. And finally, someone or something worthy of imitation. A great example.
That's exemplary. Exemplary means serving as a desirable model, representing the best of its kind, worthy of imitation, commendable.
Exemplary behavior.
Her exemplary behavior earned her recognition from the school administration. Exactly.
Yeah.
It means setting a remarkably high standard, serving as an outstanding positive role model, or a perfect example for others to follow. Truly exceptional.
Excellent. And just one more assessment word related to blame, clearing someone of blame.
Yes, exonerate. To exonerate is to absolve someone from blame for a fault or wrongdoing, especially after due consideration of the case.
Like finding new evidence.
New evidence exonerated the wrongly convicted man after years in prison. Precisely. It's the act of officially freeing someone from responsibility or guilt, often after an investigation proves their innocence. It restores their name.
Culpable, detrimental, efficacious, exacerbate, exploit, extol, feudal, formidable, frivolous, exacting, exemplary, exonerate. Wow, another powerful toolkit for evaluation.
Absolutely. These words allow for a really nuanced judgment.
Okay, final section before we talk about integration. Describing existence, states, and maybe even luck or chance.
Yes, this group helps us articulate states of being, conditions, and the role of chance or inherent characteristics. It helps us describe the world with greater clarity.
So how do these terms allow us to describe things that are maybe temporary, permanent, or just happen by chance?
Let's start with something that no longer exists or works.
Like an old factory.
Exactly. It's defunct. Defunct means no longer existing or functioning.
The defunct factory was converted into a modern shopping center.
Perfect. It describes something that has ceased to operate or exist, often implying obsolescence or being replaced. A defunct company, a defunct law.
Okay. What about something not working now, but maybe could again? Temporarily inactive.
That's dormant. Dormant means of an animal having normal physical functions suspended or slowed down for a period of time, in or as if in a deep sleep. Or, more generally, temporarily inactive or inoperative.
Like a dormant volcano.
The volcano had been dormant for over a century.
Yeah.
Yes, it signifies a state of temporary inactivity or suspension, but crucially with the potential for future activity. Dormant talent, dormant seeds.
Potential for reawakening. Got it. Now, a more difficult one. Describing someone extremely thin, perhaps due to illness.
The word for that is emaciated. Emaciated means abnormally thin or weak, especially because of illness or a lack of food.
A very strong visual word.
It is. The emaciated refugees needed immediate medical attention. It's a stark description of extreme physical wasting, often due to severe deprivation, starvation, or disease.
Okay. What about something specific to a particular place or group, like a disease common only in one region?
That condition is endemic. Endemic means of a disease or condition regularly found among particular people or in a certain area, or of a plant or animal native or restricted to a certain country or area.
Malaria is endemic to tropical regions.
Malaria is endemic to many tropical regions of the world.
Exactly. It describes a condition, characteristic, or species that is regularly found or is natural to a specific area or group, as opposed to something that has spread from elsewhere, which might be epidemic or pandemic, endemic corruption, endemic species. Right, naturally occurring there. Now, we touched on epitome earlier, the perfect example.
Yes, epitome. A person or thing that is a perfect example of a particular quality or type.
She was the epitome of grace.
She was the epitome of grace and elegance at the formal event. Yes.
Yes.
It signifies the ultimate embodiment or representative of a quality or type, serving as the quintessential example, the epitome of luxury, the epitome of courage.
The ultimate example. Got it. And equivocal. We also mentioned this ambiguous, unclear.
That's right, equivocal. Open to more than one interpretation, ambiguous, often deliberately so.
His equivocal response left everyone confused.
About his true intentions.
Amazing.
Exactly. It describes a statement or situation that is deliberately vague or unclear, leading to multiple possible meanings and often causing uncertainty or suspicion. Politicians sometimes give equivocal answers.
Deliberately unclear. Okay, what about someone incredibly knowledgeable, learned?
That person is erudite. Erudite means having or showing great knowledge or learning.
An erudite professor.
The erudite professor was respected for his vast knowledge. Yes. It emphasizes profound and wide-ranging knowledge, usually acquired through extensive study and reading. It suggests deep scholarship.
Deep knowledge. And what if someone deliberately avoids something, stays away from it?
They eschew it. To eschew means deliberately avoid using, abstain from.
Eschew social media.
She eschewed social media to focus on her academic studies.
Yes. It signifies a conscious and deliberate act of avoidance or rejection, often for a specific moral, practical, or principled reason. To eschew violence, to eschew luxury.
Deliberate avoidance. Okay. How about using a mild word instead of a harsh one? Softening language.
That's a euphemism. A euphemism is a mild or indirect word or expression substituted for one considered to be too harsh or blunt when referring to something unpleasant or embarrassing.
Like passed away instead of died.
Passed away is a common euphemism for died in polite conversation.
Exactly. Euphemisms are used to soften the impact of an unpleasant or sensitive topic, like death, bodily functions, or difficult situations, downsizing instead of firing.
Softening the blow. Okay. And we talked about fortuitous to lucky chance.
Yes, fortuitous. Happening by chance rather than intention, but usually with a positive outcome. Lucky.
A fortuitous meeting.
Their fortuitous meeting at the airport led to a lifelong friendship.
Exactly. It refers to an event occurring purely by chance, but with a favorable result. It implies good fortune or a happy accident rather than something planned or earned.
Happy accident. Nice. And finally, someone careful with money. Thrifty.
That person is frugal. Frugal means sparing or economical with regard to money or food. Simple and plain and costing little.
A frugal lifestyle.
Her frugal lifestyle allowed her to save money for retirement. Yes. It describes careful and thrifty management of resources. Unlike stingy, which can be negative, frugal often implies wisdom, prudence, and lack of wastefulness in spending.
Wise spending. Okay. Defunct, dormant, emaciated, endemic, epitome, equivocal, erudite, eschew, euphemism, fortuitous, frugal. Another great set covering existence, states, and chance.
A very useful collection indeed. So what does all of this mean for you, the listener? We've covered, well, quite a few words, just a fraction really of the incredible C2 vocabulary available. And you might be thinking, okay, great words, but how do I truly make these words mine? It's one thing to grasp a definition, maybe understand the examples we've given, but it's quite another to actually wield these words naturally and effectively in your own communication, right?
That raises the most important question, really.
Yeah.
How do you transform that passive recognition, oh yeah, I think I've heard that word, into active fluency? It's not just about memorizing lists or definitions from a dictionary. It's about making each word part of your active language arsenal, integrating it so deeply that it becomes second nature when you speak or write.
That's spot on. And every single word we've discussed today, and indeed every C2 word you encounter as you read and listen, is a crucial step closer to achieving that fluency, that clarity, and that confidence we talked about. It's about building a richer, more vibrant tapestry of language so you can express the true complexity of your thoughts.
Definitely. And one of the most effective active integration strategies, I think, is consistent exposure combined with thoughtful observation. It sounds simple, but it's key. So when you read those editorials, when you listen to deep dives like this one or engage with complex discussions, you'll naturally begin to notice how these specific words are employed by others. Don't just let them wash over you.
You mean actively look for them?
Actively listen and read for context. Pay incredibly close attention. Ask yourself, how does that word fit into the sentence structure? What subtle meaning does it add that maybe a simpler word couldn't? Why did the author or speaker choose that particular word? This kind of active listening and reading for context will elevate your comprehension hugely, and it starts building those connections in your brain.
Absolutely. Become a word detective almost. And then the next step has to be actually using them, right? You can't just observe forever.
Exactly. It's about consistent use. You simply have to try and incorporate them naturally into your own communication, both when you write and when you speak.
Does it matter if it feels a bit forced at first?
Not at all. Start small. Perhaps pick just 1 or 2 new words each week that really resonate with you. Actively look for opportunities to use them. Write sentences using them. Imagine real-life scenarios where you could use them. Try them out in conversations, maybe with language partners, or even just talking to yourself.
Yeah, practicing in the shower works too.
It genuinely does. Even if it feels a little awkward or unnatural at first, that consistent repetition, that active recall, is how these words migrate from your passive vocabulary, the words you recognize, into your active everyday language, the words you use confidently.
And observing others helps there too, right? Paying attention to proficient speakers.
Oh, immensely valuable. Listen to how proficient English users, maybe native speakers, maybe highly advanced learners, apply these words. Notice the specific situations in which they choose these particular terms over simpler synonyms. Then, try to emulate their usage. Don't just copy the isolated word, but try using it within similar phrases or common expressions, those collocations. This really helps you grasp the idiomatic nuances and the natural rhythm of how the language actually works.
Yeah. Context and collocation are so important at this level. And I guess we need to remind ourselves that this takes time.
Absolutely. Remember, the journey of mastering advanced vocabulary doesn't happen instantaneously. It's not like flipping a switch. It truly requires consistency day in, day out. It requires a deep sense of curiosity, always wanting to know why a word is used. And it requires unwavering determination, not giving up when it feels difficult.
So think of it less as a sprint to some imaginary finish line.
Exactly. Think of it more as an ongoing exploration, a continuous journey where each new word you successfully integrate unlocks a fresh level of expressive power for you. It's about cultivating a habit of linguistic mindfulness, always seeking that perfect word, the mot juste, to express exactly what you mean.
And ultimately, all this effort, this exploration, this practice, it's about becoming a truly powerful and persuasive English communicator, isn't it?
That's the goal. Becoming someone whose words genuinely reflect the profound depth and sophistication of their thoughts. It's about moving beyond simply conveying basic information to truly influencing, explaining complex ideas, describing nuanced feelings, connecting with your audience on a far deeper, more meaningful level.
Fantastic. Well, that, my friends, concludes our deep dive into C2 English mastery and advanced vocabulary for today. We sincerely hope this has given you a real sense of the sheer power these words hold and how they can profoundly transform your communication, whether for exams or just for life.
And remember, this journey is all about continuous learning and refinement. It never really stops. The more you actively engage with these sophisticated terms, the more your understanding and your own expression will flourish. Every single word you integrate adds another vital brushstroke, another color to your own linguistic masterpiece.
So what does this all mean for you personally listening right now? How will you take these nuggets of knowledge, these words we've explored, and carefully start to weave them into the fabric of your own daily conversations and your writing? How will you allow your thoughts to shine with greater clarity and more impactful precision? Stay committed, keep practicing consistently, and really let your words reflect the true depth of your thoughts. And hey, if you found this deep dive valuable, please do us a favor, like this video, share it with anyone else who might benefit, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We genuinely appreciate your support.